In this video, Frank is going to talk about dribbling. Take it away.
All right. First thing, it says the 5 stages of motion offense, and really it should say the 5 stages of dribbling. And as you learn to dribble, you go through 5 phases or stages of a learning curve. The first is just the physical and the tactical learning of how to dribble and how dribbling creates space. The second stage is when you start to gain an awareness of the advantage that you gain by that space. So it's a spatial advantage you have over your opponent. And the third stage is a strategic advantage when you start using that awareness and exploiting it to have a strategic advantage over your opponent. The fourth stage is the command stage, where you have awareness of the leverage that the strategic advantage is giving you. You get a tremendous amount of leverage when you start to exploit the strategic advantage you have. And finally, you have the mental advantage, where you know that your opponent knows that you know that you can do whatever you want, when you want, how you want, and there's nothing that they can do to stop it. That's a mental advantage, and that's ultimately where you want to get to with dribbling. So I've picked an interesting point from the Flyers a couple of years ago. There's some interesting moves here by Justin Allen and Jared Bowen that we can talk about. First catch here is from Dennis Taurasi, and it's interesting to me that he's pivoting back to the middle of the field, which is a good thing to do. He does travel, which I'm not particularly fond of, but the inverted pivot is what I'm highlighting here. Justin Allen does not invert that pivot. He goes down the sideline, which is something I'm pretty profoundly against. But anyway, I'm highlighting what Justin's doing here and the good parts and the bad parts. He's not dribbling in this first play because he's not running with the disc. It's a huge stagger move. It's a great give and go move, no doubt, but I wouldn't call it dribbling because there's so much latency between when he throws it and when he goes. He should be going as he's throwing the disc, not afterwards. And I teach all my players to actually dribble with their non-pivot foot up in the air. So that really forces you to get a good start. It's like a pitcher pushing off a rubber when he's pitching. So he's as much separation as Justin gets here. He could have doubled that had he run off of his left foot with his right foot up in the air. Now what I want to highlight here is how Brian Casey pivots to the outside there. He doesn't invert his pivot, and he completely kills the tremendous advantage that the team has via Justin Allen's give and go and Jared Bowen's dribbling here. But you watch what happens. Brian Casey completely neutralizes. As I told Mike DeNardis over and over again, it's a case of take the hill, give back the hill. In one instance here, Brian Casey gives back completely everything that the defense has given you, or that you've taken. And I compare it to Lucy and Charlie Brown, where Lucy is Brian Casey in this case, taking the football away from Jared Bowen or Justin Allen or whoever is there. If Brian would have inverted this pivot back to the middle, if you watch this one more time, he had Dennis Taurasi open and Justin Allen, all kinds of things. That's about it. They do get the score nicely. Dennis inverts his pivot again. Terrence Mitchell travels as usual, and the rest is a pretty simple point. So that's about it. Just a little note on Terrence, why I think this is relevant. He's going to lift up his foot here, his non-pivot foot, and he lifts up his pivot foot, and when he does that, he plants his right foot as his pivot, but he travels every time he gets the disc anyway. So That's about it.
I think it's interesting to note how you can quite visibly see the flow stop when Casey pivots away from the rest of his teammates.
Right, and I hope you can see back at Justin Allen's initial move, because it's an extraordinarily powerful move. It's a flick, give, go. It's a staggered move. He stands there for a half second after he throws it and watches it. And if he lifts up his right foot as he's throwing and he completely pushes off his pivot foot and throws and runs at the same time, that's that's a full half second advantage that he hasn't given up, and that would be more dribbling because you're actually running with the disc.
All right, cool. Well, thanks very much, Frank. I'm going to go and chop it together and stick it up on Reddit, I think. Try and do that in the next hour.